Flying Casual is brought to you by Patreon supporters Brent, David Bush, Jory Webb, Nate Edison, Wes Anderson, Kelly Breckner, and Andy Dugan. May the Force be with you.
You're listening to Flying Casual, a Star Wars podcast. Here's your host, Michael Canterbury.
Casual fam, Flying Casual here with your host, Michael Canterbury. Double intro. Are you coming down from the Clone Wars high, fam? I'm still riding it, but I'll be honest, I'm a little excited to talk about something different. I think that'll be kind of a nice change, but it was epic. We talked about it for many a week, and now it's time to move on. Unless Dave Filoni comes out and says, we're making more, I feel like we're probably not going to be talking about Clone Wars for a little while. But, fam, I'm joined with me, as usual, by the lovely Holly. Holly, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
That's it? You're good?
Yeah, that's
You're
it.
just
I'm
good. You're ready to podcast. You got the Clone Wars out of your system,
That's
right?
right, yes.
That's it. You're very pointed today, which is totally great for podcasting. Not a lot of dead space, which is great.
We're just going to stay on track.
Let's stay on track. I'm totally down with that. I am also, fam, joined by also the lovely Mr. Luke Elder. Luke, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I tell you what, Michael, I would really lose it if Filoni came out with the announcement that they're going to make a Dark Disciple movie.
Oh, can you imagine that? It should have been in Clone Wars. Let's be honest. Am I wrong, Luke?
No, I would love to see that Son of Dathomir arc. I'm holding out some tiny little bit of hope that the whole pandemic social distancing thing will keep people from, filming live action for a while. So they'll be like, "Wow, we got to fill the dead space with something. Let's do animation. We don't have to be in the same room to do some computer animation. So let's some of those old Clone Wars scripts and things. Let's go ahead and animate them."
That, selfishly, that would have been actually really great for, hey, guys, what can we do? Well, we don't really have much written, but, I did have this, or season 5 of Rebels, or, a continuation on of the Clone Wars. Like, where is Ahsoka post Clone Wars, Holly? I mean, is that selfish?
No. I mean, I feel...
How many people have to get sick, for that to be a thing?
I feel like we kind of talked about that a little bit last time.
Yeah.
I don't think that's selfish. Sorry.
Hey, I mean, when in Rome, right? When a Star Wars fan, you want more Star Wars. But so Clone Wars is come and gone, and it was sad. It was emotional. It was epic. But I like I said up top, I'm kind of excited to talk something different for a change. Holly, are you ready? I mean, you got hit with Clone Wars hard. Are you ready to kind of get back into the swing of things?
I'm kind of ready to move past. Sorry, maybe this will make people mad, but I'm just ready to move past the Clone Wars stuff.
Yeah.
Not really my favorite Star Wars thing.
Hey, it will be. It'll be one of your favorites. Luke, am I wrong? I mean, it took years, but it won us over. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it's a fine wine. You got to let it breathe a little bit, swish it around in your mouth.
Yeah.
Really
Amen.
Find all the notes. I'm not going through Clone Wars withdrawal yet. I've been kind of binging it, old episodes. So
you're back on the sauce. Am I wrong? Like you're back to it.
It's bad.
It's not bad. It isn't. You just can't get enough of it because that's the thing. That's what happens when you have years of space and we don't we did a rewatch before to get ready for it, but then you see what happened in season 7. You're like, what got us there? Let me go rewatch it again. So that's, Holly, we do need to finish our rewatch. That's going to take some time. But like Luke said, a fine Malbec maybe.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? So but plenty of Malbec with Mal.
Malbec with Mal.
Yeah, that we may have to make ourselves our own wine.
I think there is a winery at Lucas Ranch, right?
Our Lucas's ranch or the Skywalker ranch you're talking about, right?
Yep, that's what I meant. Sorry.
No, hey,
Let
no.
me try again.
Yeah, there's a Skywalker Vineyards. Yeah,
That's what I
heard
meant.
about this. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because we saw on the chef show they have their own freaking like garden. They do all this stuff. I'm sure they have acres and acres of.
When they do, they have a winery. You can buy the wine online and they'll send it to you.
Is it Star Wars themed?
It is.
Luke, I know you make beer, my friend. So is wine a lot more difficult? Have you dabbled in the winemaking at all?
I'm semi-retired from brewing since my kids were born. Yeah, wine is the same general concept. You need some sugars.
Yeah,
to feed those yeast, and they'll do the job for you.
Turn it into a very explicit podcast here. Swish it in your mouth, really get that yeast going. I mean, Holly, am I wrong?
They have a Skywalker Rosé.
Okay, that's kind of boring. I was hoping for cooler names.
All right. They have
The suspense.
I know.
Seriously.
Maybe they're not as like Star Wars themed as we originally let on.
And that's okay. I
thought
guess
that
it can't
they
all be
did.
Star Wars, right?
I really thought that they had some other ones. Sorry, I'm flipping through this. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe that wasn't as exciting as I thought it was.
Well, that's
That
okay.
could be a fun game.
Yeah.
If you get a bottle, you get a few bottles, you rename them. You have to
That's
come
right.
up with what does this
Sick.
wine make me feel in a Star Wars way.
I'd be like, that tastes a little like Anakin. I'm going to go ahead and say it's the chosen one. Wow. Phrasing, right?
I was thinking more along the lines of what planet do I see myself sipping this on?
Okay.
But sure, it can taste like different characters, I guess.
I mean, what would, a Hutt Jedi taste like?
Are you asking me, or was that a rhetorical question?
That somewhat rhetorical. Luke, any idea what a Hutt Jedi would taste like, or a Hutt, I guess in general? I would say Jabba.
Is that Jabba?
That's the name of the wine. Luke, what would Jabba's wine name be? Anything? Slimy McSlamo?
Yeah, I can't imagine it tasting good. I think Jabba might be better as like a Scotch. You know how go on this journey with me.
Yeah.
You know how like sloths move so slowly that like moss and stuff actually grows in their fur.
So it'd be very.
I can
peaty.
imagine like algae-ish things growing in sort of the folds of Jabba.
Sexy.
And algae's kind of like peat moss, which eventually goes into Scotch. So that's where my head's going with Jabba. Jabba Scotch.
Jesus.
Listen,
Yeah.
there's
Jabba the
a
Scotch.
Jabba the Scotch.
Oh,
There's a bar in Columbus. It's called the Lawbird Bar.
okay.
Luke, I don't know if you're familiar. They have a Star Wars cocktail menu right now.
Nice.
They have Tatooine Sunrises, note the plural, which is like a rum-based drink with
Okay.
a lot of different, like grapefruit and pineapple
I
and
hate
orange
grapefruit.
juice. Okay.
I hate grapefruit, so I'm out on that.
They
one.
have a Dagobah Swamp Dak, which is a daiquiri.
I love swamps.
I'm sure you do. And then they also have my favorite, at least the name of it is my favorite. It's Bantha Milk for Breakfast, bro.
Oh, Jesus. What is that, like a stout or like a, what are the,
It's a blue milk, maybe.
No,
Yeah.
it's not that. It is it has lemon juice, lime juice, maple syrup, and freeze-dried blueberry infused half and half.
that actually sounds pretty amazing. Anything
I was say, where's the creaminess coming?
Yeah, it's a
you
half
throw
and
the
half.
half and
It's
half in there.
blueberry
Yeah.
infused half and half, and it's actually super cute. I think it's a tiki bar, and so with all their drinks, they have different Star Wars tiki glasses next to it. So the one for this is an R2D2 tiki glass.
we were going to get some tiki glasses here for
Star
May the
Wars
4th.
ones?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I was going to say, I think the cream comes later, but that was a terrible joke to make. So, phrasing. I mean, am I right? Jeezy, Pete, you got to work for the cream. But
Wow.
wow, I hope no kids are listening. This was not the direction I'm taking this podcast in, but it's where it's went. So that's exciting. Maybe we'll get into making our own wines. let Luke knock the rust off his beer making. I mean, I'll work on some labels. You just brew it. Holly will come up with clever names. I feel like we got a whole operation here. Holly, are you down?
Yeah, we just need a little time.
We're in isolation. We have so
That's
much
true.
time. Luke could be brewing beer while working. Luke, am I wrong? I mean, we can make that work, right?
As long as no one from work listens to the podcast,
They
right?
don't. I guarantee they don't. We're good. We're golden. Our bosses are not listening right now. But hey, that sounds like a fun idea. But anyway, fam, sorry for that little tangent, but sometimes that's what happens, right, Holly?
I'm not sorry. That was all Star Wars related.
It was. It absolutely was. It absolutely was. So we did have an opportunity, folks, to check out some new Star Wars content like we talked about, back into issue number 2 of the new Darth Vader line, which was okay, I'll say up top. We'll probably talk about that here in the beginning. Then we have news that we may be seeing Mr. Boba Fett himself in the flesh in Mandalorian Season 2. Honestly, folks, I have no idea where that's going. What's he doing there? So that's why we're going to talk about it. Maybe a little speculation. Do we like it? Is it necessary? What are the consequences of bringing him back? And then if you're not checking out the Disney Plus docu-series, does anyone remember the name of it? It's like Disney Plus Presents or something like that. I don't know. It's something. Making of. Couldn't tell you the name of it. But on The Mandalorian, the second episode of that came out, and just more goodness, that behind-the-scenes stuff. And Luke was absolutely right. Like, not a whole lot of, behind the scenes on the actual Mandalorian set, or even the story for that matter, but a lot of just talk about Star Wars in general with its creators and producers and directors and things like that. So we're going to talk about that second episode, because some really amazing things were said by everyone involved, but especially Dave Filoni. So I want to hear everyone's thoughts on that. But to get started, Luke.
That name you're looking for, it's called Disney Gallery. So I'm assuming they're going to do this for other shows too, because it's Disney Gallery subtitle Star Wars: The Mandalorian. So
That'd be cool.
maybe it's a thing they're going to keep doing. But
Well, I'll tell you, they are dragging it out too. Holy smokes!
I thought it was weird after the first episode. I was like, "That's it. It's very short."
It was very short, which is great.
I didn't realize
more
it-
content.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was a series, and I was like, "That was a very short documentary."
Which, it's more content for the streaming service. I'll take it. It's going to hold people, each week until they got, bigger shows coming out. So we'll take it, I guess. But let's get into that second issue of the new Darth Vader line. If you guys recall, or if you're reading it yourself, Darth Vader's really angry about, he knows Luke Skywalker's his son. He's very angry that Luke is so weak. And he's out to destroy those who trained him, who really brought him up in the world. So he goes to Tatooine looking for answers, looking who did this, wreaks some havoc, and, goes off to Padme's old apartment that we see in the prequels, and gets some information to go to another planet. And is it Vendaxa? Am I recalling the planet properly, Luke? Vendaxa?
sounds good. Yeah.
Right? Something like that. Some place we've never been to that has land squids.
Yeah.
How original.
Your old land squids.
Your run-of-the-mill land squids.
Yeah, just casual guardians of the caves. But so we the last issue ends with Vader confronted with a ghost. It seems Padme herself standing before him, and you're just like, wait, what? Ollie, when we ended that issue, what were your thoughts?
Oh, I think I immediately said to you that has to be one of her handmaidens.
One of the handmaidens.
Like,
right?
I was like, immediately, that's definitely not Padme. That would be, I would not like that.
Yeah.
And it has to be a handmaiden.
Yeah, Luke, did you have any suspicions that somehow Padme's in the shadows? Maybe she brings upon the rebellion, and she's, who knows? one of the makers of the rebellion. Were you thinking any of that, or did you immediately think Handmaiden?
Oh, Michael, I had way more than suspicions. I had a deep burning passion that it was Sabe when I read issue 1. And that all stems from Queen's Shadow. I think we might have gotten to this a little bit.
Yeah.
Because at the time we were talking about issue 1, I'd actually read like half of issue 2 already as well. And so I kind of knew the answer, and I was so happy that it was the answer that I wanted.
Yeah.
Because and this all comes back to the Queen's Shadow novel, which I believe you've read, Michael. I know Holly hasn't yet. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we'll get a chance to sometime. And Sabe is a character in that, and I think one of the best parts of that novel, and the way the novel ends, you're left, or at least I was certainly left wanting more Sabe, and I think a lot of people who I've heard read it wanting more Sabe, like, oh, there's more to her story, and something really interesting in her story. So I was so excited at the end of issue 1 at the possibility of it being Sabe, and then, turning the page to issue 2 and it being her, I thought was, a nice reward, and want to see how far into this run, will she stick around?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting when we ended Queen's Shadow, we know she's kind of out going to be doing things. I was kind of expecting a sequel or something to take over and just be about Sabe, and I don't think that's what we're getting. I think we're getting a prequel, right? Am I correct, Luke, in that we're getting more of a Padme in her younger years before even becoming queen?
Yeah, Queen's Peril, which is the next book from E.K. Johnston, is I think while she's queen, but before the events of Phantom Menace, I believe, is when it's taking place. But they clearly paid some nice respect to E.K. Johnston's novel, and the droid refers to her as the Queen's Shadow when they figure out who she is. So I thought that was really fun to give that nod, which I think that book deserves, the connection here.
Absolutely. And am I mistaken in that Keira Knightley played her in the prequels, right?
Yeah, it's Keira, yeah.
So I think this could make an epic Disney Plus series. Am I alone? Holly, would you love Keira Knightley, as I do. I mean, I think about the old King Arthur movie, and I was a young lad, and she was kicking butt in that movie, and I was like, who is this chick? She is epic. Like, could you see a Handmaid's Tale? Now, we wouldn't call it that. I think there's something else currently right now that's called that. But would you pay for Disney Plus to watch Sabe out there seeking vengeance for her queen and, I mean, maybe protecting Naboo, going behind the Empire? Would you kind of maybe a spy assassin kind of thing? Would you pay to see something like that?
Yeah, I would. I don't think that I really have a lot of history about this character, just other than seeing her in the movies. So I think I would be interested. I would see that. Bring
Keira Knightley back, am I right? Like, bring her back.
What has she been up to anyway?
Not much. Luke, would you buy into an assassin kind of thriller? There's maybe a spy kind of Handmaiden's Tale with Keira Knightley out there kicking butt, live action on Disney Plus.
Michael. Of course.
Of course I would. Take my money.
Been thinking about Sabe once every other week since I finished Queen's Shadow like a year and a half ago. But I'm not the person they need to convince you.
I know.
I think it's really an intriguing idea. It's too deep cut a character for me for them to do that with.
True.
Unless like, okay, if you have a character that probably not a ton of people know or like understand who it is, that's a stretch. But if they were to get Keira Knightley to come back to do it, and you have that big a name attached to it, then I think it could work. Because people would say, oh, well, I don't really know what this character is, but it's Keira Knightley, so I mean that's like a big deal. So I'll check it out.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. That would be, it might be a hard sell because not a lot of people. I know a lot of people didn't pick up Queen's Shadow. Like, I don't think it was, it wasn't one of the books that everyone was running to, and you know, it got mixed reviews or whatever. I really enjoyed it, but I think it's worth exploring, especially if there's, you know, others out there that are, you know, doing the same thing she's doing, and because there's not much story there, it could be very ripe for storytelling, and send her out doing random things in the galaxy that no one would expect. And yeah, if you can get a big name like Keira Knightley, that would be freaking epic. I don't think she's past her prime. So I'm not, you know, like acting wise, you know, yeah, don't ever tell a woman she's past her prime. Right, Holly?
Literally never.
That was more of an acting critique.
Just redact that statement from the
I don't
podcast.
redact podcasts, but you know what I'm saying. Like actors, you know, she was very big, you know, several years ago, and I honestly haven't seen her in anything lately. So, so I don't know. That's totally off of what we were talking about, right? But so we see what appears to be Padme, and even Vader's confused. And so here we see a lot of flashbacks, Luke. I mean, more than half of these pages were just flashbacks of Vader remembering moments with Padme in the arena in the prequels. You know, I'm not afraid. I love you. You love me. Like all these feelings, just seeing her, just flowing back. And the whole story itself is a little confusing. This issue for me, but. What did you think, Luke? I mean, I don't know if I can even summarize really what happened other than they find out she's a handmaiden, right? And they get flocked by some land squids, and they need to fight side by side to escape, which was super crazy because this comic makes Sabe look just like Padme, and they even like aged her a little bit where she would be in this time, and you're like, wow. Looking at Vader and what appears to be Padme side by side is like jarring and kind of creepy. But Luke, what'd you think of the issue overall? And I mean, if you got any big points you want to hit, like feel free. But what did you think overall?
You touched on the sort of flashback panels that have been a major part of these first two issues of this line, and I've really enjoyed them, especially the way they were done in the first arc. With all of the images of the people in Vader's life that he's remembering, and how that relates to what he's currently going through with the, you know, discovering Luke as his son, in that, you know, he had a child out there, and wanting to understand more of how that happened and how it was hidden from him for a while. So I really enjoyed these flashback scenes are pretty much all from Attack of the Clones, which, like I say every week, is you know, a hill I'll die on. Loving that movie, even though a lot of people put it really far down in their order. So for me, I think it was really lovely to see that again. And yeah, really, this issue was all about just verifying who she was when, you know, she was the mystery cliffhanger at the end of issue 1. And really, it was just about understanding, okay, who she is and how does she connect to Anakin, and kind of a little bit of a background on what she's been up to. You kind of understand that she's basically been a rebel of sorts. It's not really clear if she's really tied in with the Alliance so much, but she definitely doesn't like the Empire. So she's carrying on what we assume would be Padme's position before she dies, and probably would have gone with, you know, the likes of Bail Organa and Mon Mothma towards the rebellion had she still been around. So she's kind of, I think, you know, the personification of that's probably not the right word, but just like she's continuing, I think, Padme's legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've traced her back because it appears to be the one who messed with the recordings or security footage or whatever from Padme's apartment, and they traced it back to where she was now, and she admits, yeah, I messed with it or whatever. And I guess they're curious as to, I guess I don't understand what exactly it is that we're looking for, you know, post her death. I mean, Vader says, you know, what does he say? Someone hid her from me, or I did it. Holly, did you understand exactly what Vader's seeking in this moment about Padme herself, or what it is that that Sabe is kind of hiding. Did you picking up on that yet?
I mean,
Maybe I'm not.
there is something about recordings.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, there's a mutual benefit though there, right? Because she confronts him the moment she's like Darth Vader, pulls out her blaster and shoots, and he blocks it. And the comical droid continuing what he's been doing is offering commentary and you don't want to do that, like you done pissed him off. Well, he doesn't say that, but like he's the storyteller here, because you're not going to hear Vader recollecting on a lot of things. You're seeing flashbacks from him, but you're not going to see a ton of dialogue from him. So you have this droid kind of commentating things, which is, I think it's pretty cool. It adds the humor into it that these things need. Yeah.
I mean, I think that he's just retracing her footsteps to figure out what is happening to her, right?
Yeah. I mean, he knows she died, but but I think he thinks that something changed her, right? Because he tells Obi-Wan, you turned her against me. Like something happened. Someone was, or maybe he just, he thought she died. The Emperor said she died, but like he doesn't know really what happened then. So maybe he actually is looking for her. Luke, are we missing the whole point of now what Vader was looking for his son or his son's, keepers? But now we're on this whole Padme kick. Are we missing what his purpose is here?
Yeah, it's interesting because you have the two perspectives, and I totally understand Sabe's perspective, because we don't know. I think in the canon, I'd have to go read the end of Queen Shadow again, because there's that great epilogue which kind of deals with this.
Yeah.
But I don't think it answers the question of what the people on Naboo and what the rest of the galaxy thought happened to Padme.
Yeah.
And because I'm assuming a sort of in-story explanation, because it was such a tumultuous time with the end of the Clone Wars and the rise of the Empire, that it was easy for it to be kind of swept under the rug and not too many questions to be asked. But Sabe is really, bothered by what happened to Padme. I don't understand.
Yeah.
So that side of it I completely get, and she wants to find answers, and she's been seeking those answers. What happened to her?
Mm-hmm.
The stuff on the Vader side's a little, it's odd. It's more odd. Why is he asking these questions? Doesn't he kind of know?
Yeah.
At the end of Revenge of the Sith, Palpatine tells him, she's dead. You killed her.
Yeah.
And so I think, the biggest shock to him is that, well, she gave birth to a child prior to her death.
Yeah.
When did that happen? So when he's talking about, I need to find the ones who hid her, I think you would think he knows, like, she arrived on Mustafar with Obi-Wan, so presumably she left Mustafar with Obi-Wan. So it wouldn't seem to me like it should be that much of a mystery to Vader. It's got to at least have a connection to Obi-Wan.
Oh, yeah. Maybe it's that he last time he saw her, she was there. And I mean, he's had his limbs cut off and stuff, but maybe he went back to that place and she's gone. Well, someone hid her from me. Like I probably would have buried her and mourned her, but she's gone. So I think you're absolutely right, Luke.
I think, I'll tell you guys what this issue...
You know insider information?
No.
Okay.
I'll tell you guys what this issue did for me, because I think all the things that we kind of already talked about, were interesting.
Yeah.
But I think what I took away from this issue more, other than establishing Sabe's character and what her role is going to be in the upcoming issues, was really humanizing Vader a little bit more, because I feel like we get some of that towards the end of the original trilogy, but kind of like throughout the trilogy, like he's this big baddie. We don't really feel too much empathy for him. And I mean, give and take, right? Yeah. But I think that we see some things in this issue that would have been considered a little bit uncharacteristic for Darth Vader, or what you might think that his character is going into this. I mean, you see him very shocked and surprised by seeing someone who looks almost identical to Padme. You kind of start to understand how much he understands or remembers about his past, or when he was actually Anakin, or I guess if you want to say before Anakin died, in the birth of Darth Vader, if you will. But you also kind of see him not react in the same way that Darth Vader usually does when he's confronted or somebody, contradicts him.
Yeah.
Because we see even the droid kind of mentions, like, so how come she gets to call the shots now? Like, she's just making all the decisions. And he kind of shuts the droid up, and he lets Sabe bury her people.
Yeah.
He kind of lets her get angry with him and, confront him and yell at him. And we don't see him. I mean, ultimately, like, he has a little bit of a moment where he throws a tantrum.
Oh, yeah.
But then he calms down.
It does.
I don't know. I just kind of feel like it kind of gave me a different perspective of the things that maybe he's going through and his internal conflict and kind of how, like, he's working for the Emperor, but at the same time, like, he has his own stuff that he's worried about, and Palpatine's not really his top priority right now.
Yeah.
So you kind of start to see that split.
Holly, it's like we're synced, because I was going to come to you on that very topic because we're reading the comic together, and you say, wow, Vader remembers a lot. And it takes me back to Clone Wars. We're in the last episode of Clone Wars, and if you haven't seen it, I'm really sorry. We're going to talk about it here. But it's kind of debated right now what's going through Vader's head there. You actually see his eye, and Luke, I don't even know if you caught that. You can see Anakin's eye through the red eye lens on his helmet, which was epic. So I feel like that kind of is like trying to tell us something there, that maybe he is remembering a lot. And
someone's home. He
definitely remembers, Ahsoka and his apprentice and all this stuff. But like, that's something that these comics are really great for. Like you said, humanizing him and showing just how complex he is. And Luke, I know, is reading the second Darth Vader run right now, which is an amazing run. And Holly, you're also going to read it. And I think we're all going to sit down and do a Patreon exclusive on that entire line because it's epic. He's just so complex. And there's so much to him, more than epic, Rogue One moments. And he is rational. I mean, there's moments even in the original trilogy you're like, wow, did he just not choke that guy out for, being insubordinate or, failing like he did others? It's almost like a tantrum he has in moments, very much like Kylo Ren. Yep. That's a whole nother discussion, but has very reasonable moments here. Like, she's a resource here, though he did have a moment where he was like choking her, right? So that was kind of strange.
But then he had a flashback about him doing the exact same thing to Padme, and I think that stopped him, because I don't truly think that in this moment he actually wants to believe that he could be responsible for her death. So when he gets that and she looks so similar to Padme, he immediately stopped.
Yeah, maybe he's learning, right?
Or it just shows you how much of an effect she has on him. Which is very sad, considering the fact that she couldn't change his path.
That's true. But if you think about it, too, it's almost like Anakin blew up, went full dark, right? Slaughtered younglings, like choked out Padme, tried to kill his brother. But like, it's almost as if Vader is becoming even more strong on the dark side. He's learning to temper things when need be. That he has these moments of rage, but not like Anakin did. Anakin couldn't really control things very well. It's almost like he's growing more mature, with age, and he's got this suit that he's learning how to. There's so much that he's dealing with right now, and then we're seeing all these emotions, because the issue, or the line that Luke is reading right now and that you will read, is he's grappling with some of the decisions he's made, yes, but he's also getting used to his body, and he's not looking for a crystal, and he's on a mission to actually become, the Emperor's apprentice fully. That is his mission, and this is a little more complex. We're dealing with his emotions and so many flashbacks, and I love that they're in red. It's just like he's seeing that through a red lens of just evil, but it's affecting him. It very clearly is, because he stopped choking her, like you said. So it's really awesome that we're getting more in touch with his emotion here, and just 2 issues, you're seeing a lot of flashbacks. So you're absolutely right in bringing that up. I think we're humanizing him a little more, and there was a lot more there than just, in the moment, oh, Luke's being, hit with Force lightning. Let me save him, which we're going to get into that even more so when we talk about Dave Filoni's speech in the Mandalorian doc. It was amazing. But so I think it's really great. We don't really understand what it is they're seeking. They want, obviously, answers. But now it's just even more complex now because Vader's intention was to learn more about what happened to his son. And now it's, well, what really happened to Padme? So where are we going to go now? And I thought it was very striking to see them kind of teaming up, fighting side by side. And I think even the next issue, the cover is them kind of fighting side by side, which just will be misleading for some who aren't actually reading the comic book. Wait a second. What the hell is this? Like, an alternate universe, which could happen.
I don't know. It could be startling, but
if Vader found the freaking portal, I mean, Luke, I kind of want to write some fan fiction here. Like, what could have been if Vader found the portal? I mean, let's throw this out there. What would be the first thing that Vader would do if he found the portal to, or what do they call it? They call it the portal, but they
World Between Worlds.
Yeah.
World Between
title
Worlds.
Of this episode.
Yeah. What Luke? What would be the first thing Vader would do? I gotta know what you think.
Oh, wow. I guess it might depend on when he finds it.
Great
but
point.
I think the biggest turning point in his life is the death of Shmi, his mother.
Yeah.
So if there's like a sort of killing baby Hitler and changing history moment to be had there, it's that moment. It's saving her and getting there a little earlier. You guys threw down so many interesting thoughts. I love that Holly brought up the independence of Vader. What are his interests versus Palpatine's, and that seed was sown, in Empire Strikes Back, when we see that he doesn't want to share everything with his master, and he wants to potentially plot against him with Luke, and so many of these comic books, especially, have really explored what are Vader's personal interests separate from ruling the Empire. And that's a really intriguing process to go through with him and with the character, because Anakin, like, part of his problem versus the other Jedi who were more stoic is that he so much of his feeling and his desire for good in the world was tied to the specific people he knew and dealt with, rather than sort of broadly objectively for all of humanity in the galaxy. And there's this brilliant, I'm rereading it's not to take it too far afield, but I'm reading the Revenge of the Sith novelization for the first time right now. And there's this amazing there's tons of extra dialogue in that's not in the movies. There's this great conversation between Yoda and Obi-Wan, and they're both talking about how they would readily sacrifice the life of the other. Yoda would sacrifice Obi-Wan, or vice versa, if it meant ending the Clone Wars and bringing peace. And they said, yes, we would both be very happy with that, and we'd be willing to do that. But he said, Anakin wouldn't sacrifice me. Obi-Wan said, Anakin would not sacrifice me for that. He, his connection is, he feels connected deeply to me as a person, and he wouldn't do that. And I think that's a great illustration of who Anakin is, and who he even continues to be as Vader when we're talking about this stuff. So I know I took it a little bit away from the World Between Worlds, but I had to. All the things you two said just now made me think all those things.
No, it's so epic, and it's interesting, and you see a little bit of that in the prior Vader comic line that you're reading. You're gonna see Vader is out of the loop on some things. The Emperor puts Tarkin like in charge of him. Like it's surprising when you see the Emperor, you see Palpatine saying, "You'll be by my side, like we'll rule together, like I can save the ones you love." And like we all know he's the master schemer, right? But like he really treats him really crappy. If I recall, I think he's even on Scarif, and he doesn't even really know about the Death Star plans. Like, it's crazy. So he's keeping so much from him, but it's awesome to see Vader kind of going out now on his own. He's got a side plan. The Emperor's checking in. That's what we saw in the first issue. The Emperor's checking in, and Vader's not responding. His admiral there's like, he left. I don't know, Master, which is great. But Palpatine laughs and he smirks. It's gonna get even more complicated for him. Great, let's confuse him some more. So you guys are absolutely right. It's great to kind of see that he's, he's not just solely he is dedicated to the Emperor, yes, but he has things he wants to accomplish and that he wants to learn about, and it just makes it much more complex. It's great storytelling. I love it. And I think that's a great answer, Luke, because a lot of people are going to say, like, he's trying to save Padme and the old Vader line. Like, that's really his big goal. But you're right. Like, at the death of his mother, that was huge. That's all he had. Even from the beginning, Holly, if Vader gets the portal, he's there. He can do whatever he wants. What's he going to do?
Okay, I have a question about the World Between Worlds.
Yes.
Because I kind of feel like when I watched that episode, I felt like it presented certain timelines to you that it are like moments in history that it wanted you to see. Yeah. And I don't really feel like you have the opportunity to pick and choose what you can find.
Yeah.
So I actually don't know that the portal would present Darth Vader with what he wants to see, and I think that would really piss him off.
Oh, absolutely.
So I actually think he would probably try to destroy it because it's not doing what he wants it to do.
God, yeah. Well, I think actually we probably need to tweet at Dave Filoni
and ask him.
I'm curious because, like, is anyone asking what it? Is it just you have unlimited power? Unlimited power! That's why Palpatine wanted it. I'm assuming it gives you the opportunity to do that.
Well, yeah, and Palpatine showed Ezra, like, the one thing that he wanted him to see the most. But, so I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that was just a manipulation. I don't really know how it works.
Well, let's say he could save anyone he's lost. Or save anyone. I mean, Ezra saw Ahsoka, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't a loved one. I'm sure he cared about her, but yeah. So let's say you can save anyone.
Yeah, I think that if he could save anyone, I think that I agree with Luke where he says it depends on like when in time it is, but I think that he is so like the hurt from him losing Padme is so raw that I think that would be the only thing that he would be thinking about.
That's
and so
fair.
I think that he would try to go to Padme's final moments to try to stop whatever he thinks happened to her. He would get some truth
himself.
If he did that.
I mean, I'm conflicted. I think it could go either way. You're right. I could see he talks so much about saving Padme. He kind of thinks that's it, but it's like, things went wrong so way before, and he grapples with that. You see that in the former Darth Vader line. So, and his mother is a big issue there. So I'm torn. I couldn't tell you.
That's a tough question.
That's a tough question. So we're gonna get more out of the story, I'm sure, but it's just interesting to see Vader's reaction there and how emotional he is, and he's just playing the same thing over and over. All these moments he had with Padme, and just like, she really did love him, and he's just struggling with the loss so much. It's crazy. I love it. So we're gonna learn more there. We spent so much time on that. I cannot believe we spent so much time on that line or that comic book. But
I have a segue into the documentary.
Well, that's going to be the last. Oh, but you can you can make it happen.
The Boba Fett thing.
Do you have a segue for that?
No. we'll hold off.
Okay, we'll hold off. But when you're ready to transition, you let me know.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll pick that up there. I think these are monthly releases, so I think this isn't coming out until. Oh wow, just kidding. I would assume be June. Actually, I don't know. Maybe there's one this month. I have no idea. I'm so behind. I don't even know when they're released. But. So, folks, I'm sure you were as shocked as I was to see the Hollywood Reporter coming out and saying that Boba Fett will appear in The Mandalorian Season 2. The man himself, who played Jango Fett in the prequels, is supposedly coming back and playing an older Boba Fett. Holly, do you recall his name?
Oh,
I can never remember this guy.
Tamira Morrison.
there it is.
Tamira Morrison, which I didn't believe it at first, but then I saw the Hollywood Reporter and then every other credible entertainment, news source running with it. It seems real. Luke, I want to come to you first. I mean, I guess we're not so shocked that the Boba Fett himself is coming back. It seemed almost as if we saw him in the sewer drains there with the rest of the Mandos, at least the appearance is outlined. But are you shocked? Just outright? We'll get into more discussion, but were you surprised by this news?
No, I wasn't too surprised. I think there was so much expectation that we might eventually get to this point. I think a lot of people thought it might be a season finale kind of revelation to bring him back into the fold, which I was almost half expecting. I think we might have talked even like when we were doing episodes of the podcast around the time of the Mandalorian episodes coming out. You or I or Holly or somebody would maybe speculate like, oh, well, maybe Boba Fett will appear right at the end of the season here in some way. Yeah. Because he's kind of the elephant in the room in certain ways with the show. But and then we got, the Darksaber was kind of the big thing that took the place of anything like that. Yeah. Which I was very satisfied with. So I didn't react too strongly to this. I think I reacted a lot more strongly to the news that Ahsoka would be appearing in the season 2 of the series. So I had a conversation with a good friend of mine last night, and he brought up something really interesting that I hadn't really thought of that I didn't think of immediately, because like you were saying, the reporting has been he's in the show, limited role, and he will be playing Boba Fett. Yeah. But I, talking with my friend, he was talking about how, well, Boba Fett is a clone of Jango Fett, and so are all the other clones from the Clone Wars. And who's a clone? Rex. Mm-hmm. So he could also, conceivably play Rex. And so to me, it would be really funny, and I would be almost more happy to have Rex in the show, as I would Boba Fett. So it'd be really funny to me if all these people are like, well, he must be Boba Fett. He must be Boba Fett. And then it just, he's playing Rex. That would be really kind of funny to me if that's what it turned out to be. But that's contrary to what the reports are. The reports are he's playing Boba Fett. So I don't know.
That would be hysterical if they get the casting right, but they totally misplace the character. They're like, well, who else would he be? Obviously the guy who fell in the Sarlacc pit. But yeah, you're right. Like it could just be, which would make more sense, I would think, with which I guess Boba, the mystery of his survival or death in canon, it's been out there for a long time now, and people want answers. I honestly couldn't care less, to be honest. It never is something that I've really grappled with. But it would make much more sense if we're bringing Ahsoka into this, that Rex too would also be in it. But Holly, were you surprised to see that our friend may have actually escaped the Sarlacc full intact?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if you can believe any deaths in Star Wars if you don't actually see confirmation that character has died. Yep. I think if there's one thing Star Wars has told us is don't trust the death. Yes. But I think a lot of people right now are speculating that Boba Fett is coming back as the, I guess, figure who walks up to Fennec Shan's body at the end of the Gunslinger episode. And apparently it's also been confirmed that Fennec Shan is coming back in season 2.
That's cool.
And so I think that people are, when I say confirmed, what I really mean is the internet says it's true. Yeah. And you guys know how I feel about relying on the internet if it doesn't come straight from Star Wars. Yeah. So who even actually knows? But that's the word on the street. And so I think people are thinking that it was Boba Fett who found her body and somehow maybe nurses her back to health, and then they come back for the child together or something.
Or maybe they're working together. Like maybe that they've been working together all along, and he's just like, well, you botched that one. Let's go get them together or something. Yeah, like I don't mind that, Luke. Do you buy it? I mean, he's a familiar, because that's the thing. We've been getting a lot of villains. Like, how many?
All of them.
They're all kind of villains, to be honest, if we're looking at good and evil.
Except for the child.
Well, that's true. Who knows?
Hera Kuvera would never.
He could be the ultimate villain.
Can you imagine an evil Yoda? Like, then at that point, he'd be a freaking gremlin.
His eyes just go yellow.
No. Bright light.
That might be a feature on the plush that I'm getting here soon.
You squeeze him and his eyes turn yellow and he shrivels up.
And his head spins. It's like The Exorcist.
No thanks.
That would be creepy. I'm down with that. But it makes sense, maybe, because we got a lot of villains. And it's, really not familiar people. So to bring someone like that back and place him in there and he knows all these other characters and almost validates them a little more as villains, which would be cool. But Luke, do you buy that? Could you see our old ironclad friend coming back and maybe being a friend of I don't remember the assassin's name. Hollywood, do you remember what her name was? The actual assassin?
Fennec Shan?
Fennec Shan.
Is that who I was?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's correct. Okay.
Yeah, that's who I said
Perfect.
he walks up to at the end of the Gunslinger episode.
Sorry, I couldn't remember
And then
the name.
she is apparently confirmed to be coming back in season 2.
Epic. Well, I'm down. So I'd like to see them pair up. That'd be kind of cool. But are you buying that, Luke? Could that be it? Or is he holding the key to something else, maybe about the child?
Well, I remember we all had, the internet broadly, fandom broadly, and even, the three of us had a lot of fun speculating after that episode. That was the only episode that I think ended in that way, with this like mysterious cliffhanger tease, and we kind of all expected it to be answered within the season. We spent time speculating who was it. We talked about Boba Fett. I think Boba Fett and Gideon or even Grief Karga were the three that we kind of said made the most sense. And then by the end of the season, I kind of lean more towards it being Gideon. Yeah. Because he comes in at the end of the season there, and to me that kind of made sense.
The cave.
But at the same time, now it seems like it just fits that it's Boba Fett now, if he's indeed going to be in the show. What I'm left asking myself, or what influences my reaction to this news, is what does he add to this story, or how does he fit into this story? The news of Ahsoka made me excited, not just because I like her more than I like or care for Boba Fett, but because it makes sense to me that, think about what the Armorer told him at the end of season 1. Basically, your mission is to reunite the child with his people. That could be taken one of two ways. It could be whatever species that is. Are there more of them out there? I think I understood it more as just force wielders. You need to unite him with his force wielder people. He needs guidance from a force wielder. You need to help him seek that out. And so Ahsoka, to me, fits in there, that they start trying to track down a force wielder who can provide guidance, influence, help for Hera Kuvera. And so Ahsoka fits a story role there for me. When we already have Gideon and whatever kind of minions he can come up with, I don't know what Boba Fett adds as a villain necessarily. So that's what I'm left just kind of wondering, or kind of what tempers my reaction to this.
I agree with Luke. That's like, Michael brought it up right before we started podcasting and was like, we're going to talk about this. And I was like, I don't really like that concept of him coming into the show, because I think the only reason, like the only purpose he would serve would just be to make all the people who were like, bring back Boba Fett, be like, yay, we have Boba Fett. And I just like, I don't want it to stall the storyline. I don't want it to take away from our Mandalorian. I don't want it You know, I get so worried that you start throwing in so many of these characters that it starts to like muddy up that storyline. And at the risk of sounding like C-3PO, like I trust the maker of the show, but like.
Oh, I thought we were getting spiritual there for a second. Holy cow.
Thank the maker.
Preach. Come on.
But I just, I do trust them to make good content, and we haven't been let down, but it also makes me worried. I don't want, like, I'm all for like appeasing the fan base, but at the same time, like, I'm sorry to be blunt, but some of the fan base kind of sucks. And
well, that's fair.
I think that they don't always know what's best for Star Wars. They just want to see their favorite character come back. And
except
maybe it
everyone
work.
Listening to this podcast, you are great.
You are all the best.
Yeah, I think we appeal to a pretty level-headed, listenership. I think, I those that want to talk trash and stuff, I don't think they listen. If they do, they definitely don't now.
We had way too much Star Wars hate. They left the building.
Yeah. They were the episode 2 haters. But here's where I think there could be some hope, because you're right. Boba Fett was never one of my favorite characters. He looked cool and stuff, and he's collecting bounties. What gives me hope is that maybe they do something with him, kind of like they did with Maul, right? Maul was on a track to being the Emperor's, right-hand man, and he had a story written for him. Well, that all came to a tragic end, and then he was forced to go in a completely different direction. So I can also see the same kind of happening for Boba Fett, being like, Jesus, I was in this Sarlacc pit, like the damn mucus of that thing, like melted all my clothes off. I pull myself out of here naked, and now I'm on a new mission to find, some other purpose in the galaxy, or maybe he gets right back into bounty hunting. I don't know, but it's crazy now, because that scene where I've always wanted, now if he is going to pull himself out of the Sarlacc pit, you just see a hand, right out of the sand. And I think that would be an epic way to start the freaking series. You know what I'm saying? Like the end of the first episode, just like they did with the child, is just like, what? I thought that would be at the end of the season. Put this at the beginning of the season, and then don't have him come back till the end. I think that would be epic. So I can see maybe if we're going to get a different story for Boba Fett, which I'll be honest, like in Legends, those are books I never read about Jango's return and what his purpose is then. I'm assuming it's pretty similar to what he was doing before, but Luke, I don't know if you read any of those old Boba Fett books when he survived, but could you see maybe he has some other purpose in life now? I'm not talking he's like some pastor out there, like a guardian of the wills, but something else. Maybe he is leading a syndicate of his own. I don't know.
Yeah, I read some of the old EU that involved Boba Fett and some of the other bounty hunters. I can't remember them very well, but I wondered how much they would even bother trying to explain his survival, or if it'd be just like, Emperor Palpatine in Rise of Skywalker. He's back. Don't worry about it. Just deal with it. I kind of thought maybe they'll do that. Like, I don't know that they want to show that image that you're talking about. Maybe they do. I don't know. Yeah. But just based off of Palpatine, it's like, okay, whatever. He's back. I could see it going that way. So, and the way they're talking, and when we think about the other sort of supporting characters in the first season, most of them were only in one episode, and then they kind of did the whole reunion at the end where they all got kind of brought back together again. So it's the way it's being talked about and the way I'd expect based off the first season. He's not going to be in every episode, but maybe it'll be really short scenes where we see him a couple times throughout the season, then there's something more significant towards the end, kind of like you were alluding to there, Michael. I think you could just have not like just a bare human hand, like that would who, like coming out of the sand, is it who, that could be anybody, but maybe like his gauntlet or whatever with the flamethrower, like that would be kind of cool, and it's got colors, like, and that's how the first episode ends, and you're like, wait a second, Boba Fett's out there scheming now? Like,
you have to give us some more context though. Like, he'd have to come up, like the hand would have to come up like, and throw a piece of the sarlacc out or something.
Now that would be freaking sick, Holly. That's what I'm freaking talking about. Let's write this crap and send it to Lucasfilm. Because you're right, like like a tentacle he just throws down or whatever.
Yeah,
and
I feel like you would need something like that.
Yeah, I'd be down.
And then maybe I would be sold. Or
like I haven't always wondered, but I'm sure some people have wondered, what's the inside of that that creature look like? Is it nice and homey? Like you're in there a long time, decomposing. So like, what's it like? Are people hanging out there? Oh yeah, here's this guy's new here, guys. He's about to be tortured. The whole group therapy, like people slowly die. I don't know, but who knows what we'll get.
Terrible.
Yeah, and I have a theory on the whole, the lukewarm reaction that we have had to this is, I think, down to a bit of a generational divide that we're on the slightly wrong side of. I'm not in to the action figure collecting thing, although I have a great shot of Michael right now. That includes like an Ahsoka Black Series right over your shoulder.
Let's go.
I'm really enjoying right now, but
some of them have fallen, so I need to get in there and fix those. But yeah.
But I know one of the stories I always hear people of the slightly older generation of fans who are actually alive when the original trilogy first came out. Yeah. Which we missed by a bit. They talk so much about the build up to Empire Strikes Back being so Boba Fett centric. Yeah. They were so, I think, proud of the character design, and he appeared in the holiday special in '79. Yeah, yeah. Including the great rifle that we now see in the Mandalorian. And so like he was such like think of the way like Maul's image led so much of the marketing for Phantom Menace. I think there was a big element of that with Empire Strikes Back, the great design of Boba Fett sort of leading a lot of the imagery that was put out there. And I think I hear so many of the fans of that generation talk about I think the mail away Boba Fett figure that I think you could order before the movie came out. You could get your hands on this figure of Boba Fett. So to me, I think so much of the connection to this character that gets a little bit lost on us, other than he's great in the movie. It's he's not a huge part of either Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi, but he's a significant part. Certainly plays a significant role in the actions he takes. So I think that's part of it. And so some people that had more of that experience I was just describing that we missed out on, might be screaming at their headphones now, listening to us be like, whatever, Boba Fett.
Yeah, that's true.
I was gonna say also, if you're watching this on YouTube, don't get me wrong, because you see the handle, everything is. Hey. I like Boba Fett. I like Boba Fett as a character. I have a Boba Fett handle. I have on almost all my social medias. I have a Boba Fett steering wheel cover.
You have a giant Boba Fett back tattoo.
It's a tramp stamp. There's a Boba Fett planter.
I can't believe you just said that. I love it. You gave me crap for saying what I said earlier. Go ahead.
There's a Boba Fett planter right behind Michael's head. Like, we're Boba Fett fans. We like Boba Fett. I personally...
God. Please don't put a review that this podcast hates Boba Fett. They hate the originals. Please don't.
No, I definitely don't have an issue with Boba Fett coming back in general. I think that my concern, like Luke has said, is just what would that do to the storyline?
Yeah, there's definitely storyline concerns there, but also for me, it's kind of strange because like what we were fed in the beginning is like Luke said, we're getting like the image of the Mandalorian looks exactly like, at least how we saw him in the beginning of season 1, looks pretty much exactly how Boba Fett looked in the holiday special. Yeah. It was an homage to that character with the rifle and all. And then you see IG-11, almost an exact, replication of IG-88. So to me, we were kind of moving on from those characters into newer characters, and I'm all for bringing him back. And if he serves a purpose, that's awesome. I want it to serve a purpose, because you could have just brought Maul back because he was cool and had a he had a double-bladed lightsaber. Like,
it's true.
It is. You could do that, but like there was a purpose there, right? He became one of our favorite characters, the most dynamic and complex characters. Could we get that with Boba Fett? I don't think they're going to dedicate that much time like they did with Maul. But I just want it to serve a purpose, and I'm totally fine with it. If it makes sense and he's hell-bent on, who knows, like finding Luke Skywalker, I don't know. I don't know. It'd be weird, but as long as there's a purpose there. And to me, it's just kind of like we were moving on from these. We're alluding to those characters and our new characters like IG-11, like the Mandalorian. So I don't know. For me, it's fine. I just want it to have a purpose. So, yeah, we're excited about it if it's happening. I'm a little surprised that we're getting so many, I don't know, I guess you call them leaks. Like, people are talking about Ahsoka. Now we're talking about Boba Fett. Like, the first season, and I get, it's all new characters, really. But even the little baby Yoda, I feel like that and the animatronics and everything they're doing probably be pretty hard to keep under wraps. But, like, these casting calls are just, like, they're out there now. And I don't know if that's kind of it's kind of a bummer to me because I want to be surprised. But
I just don't know. Like, every article that I've looked at about this, and I could be totally wrong. Maybe I missed something straight from Lucasfilm where they were like, "Hey, guess who we cast for this?" Yeah. But they didn't.
They did not.
And so sometimes I think that people just like to spout a bunch of BS so they have stuff to talk about, especially right now because no one's really doing a lot of anything else. And so, like, I would take it with a grain of salt. Whoever the sources are, they might be right. They might be wrong. I wouldn't believe it until either certainly believe it until either I see it in the show or we hear straight from that actor or Lucasfilm that this is actually what's happening.
All of our podcast friends that we follow and stuff on Instagram, like, they are all saying, like, this is what's happening. Like, I couldn't avoid that if I wanted to, because every single individual and group is just saying, like, this is what's happening. This is the gospel.
Well, and I think that what happens truly, I think sometimes what happens is some artist is like, wouldn't it be super cool if this character came back? I'm going to draw it. And sometimes their artwork looks so freaking legit.
Oh, yeah.
And they're so talented and it's so good and professional that people are like, oh my God, this is what's happening. It's real. I can confirm it now. And then it just starts like spiraling because I have seen a lot of fan art for like Mandalorian season 2 posters, and with Boba Fett on one side, the child in the middle, and our Mandalorian on the other side. And it looks so good and it looks so cool. Yeah. Is it true?
Who knows?
I don't know.
It's according to the Hollywood Reporter, it is. So we'll find out. I don't know. It's out there. So spoiler alert. I mean, could be Ahsoka, could be Boba Fett. Who knows? We'll find out soon enough. They're in post-production on, the Mandalorian season 2, which is awesome. I'm glad they got that filming in before things kind of went in isolation. So I hope they're working on it. Dave Filoni says they are. Holly, do you have that transition? Does it still work?
It doesn't really work.
That's too bad.
But
that's okay. I had a great transition there.
Well then, to my transition?
I don't know if it was working with yours, but give yours. Even if it doesn't make a lick of sense, I still want to hear it.
Okay, well, Luke said something when we were talking about the Darth Vader comic that got me thinking about listening to Dave Filoni talk on the documentary.
All day.
So, Luke, you mentioned Anakin, the conversation between Obi-Wan and Yoda, where Obi-Wan said that Anakin wouldn't make that sacrifice for one of them to end the Clone Wars because he's so emotionally invested in Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm paraphrasing what you said. And I think that something that Dave Filoni talked about in this documentary, which wasn't actually related to The Mandalorian at all, but like Michael said, this was more of like a roundtable discussion between everyone about Star Wars in general and not so much the production of The Mandalorian all the time. And I think Dave Filoni talked a lot about how Qui-Gon was so much different than the other Jedi were, and how he really thought it was important to have those connections with the other Jedi and connections with family and connections with friends, and he was very emotional, which kind of made him a good father figure for Anakin at that time, whereas Obi-Wan and, we see Mace Windu and the other Jedi kind of deviated from those emotional connections and became very disconnected and very political. And I don't know why, it just kind of got me thinking about, like, we even see those connections in the comics and the way that Darth Vader is portrayed in the comics, because you still see him, you know, you see Anakin die, Darth Vader come around, and then he's still kind of portraying some of those emotional, I guess, the want for the emotional connections from his past life. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting, and it's something that we just heard tonight in that documentary.
Yeah, I mean, the Jedi were asking him to, you know, to get rid of those connections, right, and to focus on his training and to really just to settle, you know, connections to others, the loved ones, and you need to be able to. You need to eliminate the fear of losing those that you care about. And he couldn't do it. And the path that he goes down puts him in that very place that he didn't want to be, which is crazy. It's so crazy. And I love what they're doing in this docuseries. I do. I mean, we got, 6 more episodes to go, this thing about the Mandalorian. Like, I want to see more behind the scenes stuff. I got to. I eat that stuff up. And we saw a little bit. We saw George Lucas there or whatever. But the best part, I mean, it is great that you're highlighting what these creators, their connection is to the product. Because I think Lucasfilm wants to show people this isn't just some Joe Schmo big name that we're getting, you know, to create these stories. These are people that care about the product. And you need to know that, because so many people are saying, you're getting these writers and you're getting these people that don't love Star Wars like we do. Damn it, I was there in 77 as a 5-year-old with my daddy. I know Star Wars, you don't. Goes. That tangent's over. I was just, you know, it was an echo as we talk. It was an echo to that podcast. But I think it's nice, you know, showing these people, showing fans that, like, they're fans too. And we're going to get the point across, their fans. You're going to see why they're creating content the way they are, why they're directing things the way they are. And you can tell. I'm going to go back and watch the season again after hearing the stories of these directors, and you're going to be able to directly see how their Star Wars story reflects how they're producing this content. I cannot wait to do that. So it's a genius strategy on their part. I love it. It just builds you up for, you know, the future content creators out there. So I think it's genius what they're doing. But the best thing that this freaking episode did was let, for 10 minutes, Dave Filoni go on a little tangent about not just the prequels, but like Star Wars in general and what it means. And he knows what it means. And we all know what it means. We just sometimes tend to lose sight of that. And Luke hit me up and said, "Did you watch that?" I haven't. Yeah, he's like, Jesus, Filoni freaking killed it. Like, holy cow. Like, you need to check this out. So Luke, I know you were excited about it, and you were right. It blew my freaking socks off what he was saying. But it's so fundamental to what Star Wars is, and sometimes we lose sight of it because there's, you know, fancy X-Wings and battles and Vader, you know, chopping people up in Rogue One. But, like, you lose sight of what the story actually is all about, and I'm so glad that you reminded me that was airing, but that you're also in tune with just what Filoni's saying. It reminds me of the discussions we have. And I told that to Holly when he was going on his little tangent. I was like, God, it sounds like he's on this podcast because I feel like we share very similar views, you know, not of Star Wars, but like, you know, a bigger perspective with Dave Filoni, which I mean, I would love to have him on the show. I think he'd fit right in. But so Luke, what was it, you know, that spoke to you about, you know, what he was saying and why was it so compelling?
I think the reason so many of us love and trust and are so happy that Filoni is so involved with all these Star Wars projects as he is because he's one of us in so many ways. He's deep and sweaty on it, and he gets it on a level that not a ton of people get it on. And you're right. It's been great to see these different directors and creators' perspectives and to see their love of Star Wars. And I think all of them do love it. And it comes through genuinely in these discussions. but nobody is as obsessed with it as Filoni, and it's clear.
Yeah.
Like Favreau even gives him some like sideways glances sometimes at the level of deepness that he is into it, which makes sense because Favreau's had his own career doing all sorts of stuff and doing Marvel movies and these Disney live action remakes of old movies and in his own sort of smaller budget films as well. Mm-hmm. And whereas Filoni's been in Star Wars up to his neck.
Yeah.
It sounds like his whole life the way he talks about it, and then definitely since he started working on the Clone Wars and after. So it was really beautiful to see, and I think he laid out so succinctly and wonderfully the main theme and the main through line of episodes 1 through 6. Anakin's journey, and then obviously Anakin's relationship with his children that becomes a part of that journey in the end. And as much as I enjoy this sequel trilogy, and even in our rankings put Last Jedi so high as one of my favorite Star Wars movies, when you look at that conversation, that discussion from Filoni about the continuity and the through line of 1 through 6, mm-hmm. It left me feeling like the sequel trilogy is kind of this weird appendage on the series. It doesn't fit as neatly 1 through 9 as like a single story. It's much more. It feels like they should have started the numbers over in the way that these comics start the numbers over, and said, this is episode 1 through 3 again. As confusing as that would have been for a lot of people. But the Qui-Gon stuff about the duel of fates in episode 1 being whether or not Qui-Gon would live and what influence that would have on Anakin, whether or not he lives, the fate that Anakin would have if Qui-Gon is victorious in this battle and lives to be an influence on Anakin going forward versus Qui-Gon being removed from the equation. That's a debate we people like us love to have, and to see that that's the mindset that Filoni has too, that he feels like he's one of us so much.
Yeah, that blew my mind. I'm going to say that confidently. I've never even taken the title Duel of Fates and that epic score. I've never taken that and really broke it down and said, what does it signify there? What is it talking about?
Maybe we need to do that.
It's a great title, Duel of Fates, and just hearing Filoni talk about it, I'm like, that makes more sense about anything in Star Wars that I've ever thought. Yeah, of course it is. Of course that moment is there to where Qui-Gon is longing to be this father figure for this individual who has nobody. He thinks he has a higher destiny and he can lead him there. He has no one. And that's if he survives. And if he doesn't, like, what path does he go down there? And that's obviously the path we went down. But I've never, ever thought of the context of the title of that theme being, part of the story itself there in a bigger way that I've never thought about. Holly, what'd you think of that? Maybe if not that in general, the Filoni's rant. I mean, I call it a rant because the boy didn't take a breath, I don't think.
No.
And everyone was just mesmerized by him.
I think that something that I've noticed about this documentary, and I know that we're only in the second episode or docu-series, if you will.
Yeah.
I think something that I've noticed is that everyone kind of talks over everybody else. Like, people
it's kind of frustrating.
It is. People will start saying something, and I'm like listening to it, and then like Jon Favreau will jump in and start talking over them, and it's kind of like, I get everyone's very excited about what they're trying to say, but it's like every 5 seconds they're talking over each other. Something that really struck me is that Dave Filoni talked for 10 minutes or more. Nobody said a single word. Everyone just let him talk, and nobody interrupted him. Not even like a yeah or a okay. Nothing. It was silent.
Well, I think someone who did it a lot, I don't know if you guys picked up on this, and this isn't me hating this individual. I think she's done great things for Star Wars, but Kathleen Kennedy interrupted a lot of people, and I think she wanted to contribute to the conversation. And like she has a lot of history there with George Lucas that no one at the table has. So I think she wanted to get her points out, but yeah, sometimes they were talking over others, and even with the directors, I can't remember what her name is, but she was
Deborah Chow.
Deborah Chow, yeah. No, it was Deborah Chow. Yeah. They were, someone was interrupting her or whatever. And sometimes it's Jon Favreau, and I think he's meant to be the mediator, the host. Sometimes I interrupt you guys, and that's not because I'm a dick. But sometimes, I keep things going, and I get more so when it's necessary for him. But you're right. And I think with Filoni, like Luke said, I think everyone is just kind of mesmerized by, like, because he just kind of does what we do sometimes. We just go into this trance of just, like, talking about something that we're really passionate about, and they're almost just kind of in awe of the experience he's having, and they're just kind of enjoying the moment that he's having. And that's not happening with a lot of people. But I think it needs to more so, but I would probably do the same thing. I would just sit there in silence.
Well, I think for me, it was, I love hearing the history of the directors and where they came from and where they started, what got them into Star Wars, what else they worked on, what their passions are, because I feel like it gives you a better understanding of the angles that they're going for in each episode that they're directing. So I think that is important. Yeah. But I feel like the difference with Dave Filoni is that he's coming from a place where, like, this is how I am, this is what Star Wars means to me, and what is happening with each of these characters individually. And now you know how I feel, and now you understand why I'm pulling things in and having certain things happen in the show the way that they are. And I don't want to say that any of the other directors have that on like a more superficial level than he does, because I don't think that that's true. But he just has such like a deeper connection to the story and all of the characters, not just the characters in The Mandalorian. And I think that's why he's able to like really like get in tune to these characters and understand the storyline and what George Lucas was going for.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to hear him talk, because he even seems to have, taken on some of George's mannerisms, which is kind of scary at times. But it's like, is this a new manifestation of George Lucas? But you're right. He is so in tune with the deep and sweaty characterizations and the Star Wars feel, yes, but like he understands the basic qualities, and I love that he summarized both of them up in this episode of that. It's about family, and it's about hope. In every episode, every movie, every clip, every whatever of Star Wars, it's always going to have hope. And it's funny that he said that, because the ending of the Clone Wars was probably the only Star War that has ended so dark and just like there was no hope there. I mean, I guess there's a little bit with Ahsoka and Mirai, but it was funny that he kind of mentioned that, and then Clone Wars happened. Like, wow, that was one of the darkest moments of Star Wars. But yeah, you're right. It needs to be hopeful, but he understands that, and it's something that he truly believes in so much that he may not even be consciously thinking about it when he creates a Star Wars. It just comes out that way. But I freaking loved what he was saying, and it blew my mind. The whole Duel of Fates discussion and what would have been. That's such an interesting, what would have happened. I mean, you can easily just say, well, he would have trained him, and and Anakin would have become this epic Jedi. That's very simple. I think things would have went a little differently, but it's interesting to think about that, and I'd never really thought about Duel of Fates in that context. But then to come back and say, in the original Star Wars trilogy, Vader ultimately coming back and attempting to be that father figure that A, he didn't have, and B, never was, and tried to do what he could in that moment to be that figure for Luke and his sister, obviously. But Luke, anything else that hit you? Like, I mean, it hit me like a brick. And I would love just for Dave to just talk about this stuff more. Love to have him on the podcast, but anything else about it? Just, I mean, did you ever think of Duel of Fates in that way? It had never even crossed my mind.
I know I've definitely had the thought about the whole whether Qui-Gon lives or not. That the whole discussion, that what if, I think, like I said, is one of the biggest what ifs that a lot of Star Wars fans talk about.
Yeah.
I don't think I connected like the title of the song so succinctly summing that up,
Yeah.
It was always just Duel of Fates is so cool as a song.
Yeah.
And it plays over such great action scenes in the Phantom Menace that I think I was lost in that without connecting, that title in that way. And it was great how he points out how Luke and Anakin save each other in the end.
Yeah,
it's not sort of one saving the other, but it's really both, because it's Luke's compassion for Vader and willingness to not strike him down when he really was in a position to at one point. He's got Vader up against the ropes.
Yeah,
slices off one of his hands, has him in trouble, and decides, I don't want to go down this path. I want to choose a different path. I want to show compassion for my father. I see the light in him.
Yeah.
And it's his, love for who turns out to be his son that allows him to turn away from the dark side and destroy the Emperor in that moment. And without that, Luke would have also perished, because Palpatine was on the verge of killing him. So in that way that they save each other, I think is something I knew and understood in the story, but the way that Filoni connects it through the whole saga and Anakin's journey, and all the way back to encountering Qui-Gon. I really loved the how he pointed out that the Qui-Gon debate can often be overly anti Obi-Wan to me, which hurts a little bit. Obi-Wan has his strengths, and they're different from Qui-Gon's, but I love how he points out the line, and points out that it's Obi-Wan directly comparing Jar Jar and Anakin when he says, why do I get the feeling we've picked up another a useless life form? Is
pathetic.
that the line? Pathetic?
Yeah. I think, right? Yes.
Life form. He sees Qui-Gon, taking on these charity cases that are not a part of their main mission. And Obi-Wan's more kind of tunnel vision, like, this is my mission. This is what I need to accomplish it.
Yeah.
I can't get too distracted by everything else going on. Whereas Qui-Gon has, more of a broad view.
Yeah.
And says, I'm going over there to do that. But along the way, Jar Jar is useful in this certain context, and I can't just abandon him to be executed by the Gungans.
Yeah.
Boss Nass. And in picking up Anakin, but that's like a pretty low blow for him to directly compare Anakin to Jar Jar.
Yeah.
That's in the way that he does. So I thought that was brilliant to point that. I know that line very well, but just to sit with that thought for a minute really sinks in.
And he was immature and naive too. He wasn't an actual, he was still a Padawan in that moment too, right? He had some maturity he needed to take. So maybe it is a little leap of Filoni to say that he was saying he's just as kind of low on the totem pole as Jar Jar, but thinking of Qui-Gon as more that father figure, I've never really thought of it that way, comparing Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and it makes so much more sense now. And even if you take in the Clone Wars and Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship, I mean, hell, in Revenge of the Sith, he says, "You were my brother, I loved you," brother. But I mean, even the relationship in the Clone Wars, it definitely is more of a brotherly, sometimes even a competition, when they're talking about, saving each other's skin for the 9th time or whatever. Like, it is almost more of a competition, kind of a brotherly thing. And could it be a stretch to him saying those things? Yeah, but it makes much more sense. Qui-Gon, like Luke said, like taking on these causes, saving Jar Jar. I need to probably reread Master and Apprentice. I'm sure you would even pick up on more of that. in that novel as well. Makes me want to read it now, but just never really thought of him as a father figure, and he did. I didn't come here to free slaves, but he takes on this child. Is it he just desperately believes he is the chosen one, or is there a fatherly sentiment there? This kid has nothing. Like, he obviously admires me and he's strong and yeah, but like there's something else there. There is that fatherly sentiment, and I see it now, and I'm sure we see it more. But Holly, anything else about what Dave had to say? No,
I
tapped it dry.
Yeah, if you haven't watched it, you should watch it.
Oh, it's just
so good,
epic. I love behind the scenes stuff. I love hearing the creators talk about Star Wars. I love hearing Dave Filoni just talk about these very simple themes that they just are Star Wars. And if you take that theme, you can create great stories, and that's what they are. And even the sequel trilogy. I mean, it's a little jarbled, and you know, and then there's not always some like direct lineage, but it's there, and it is more so about finding a new family, right? And it's you know, Rey could have been a Skywalker, but it's a different interpretation on that. And I love, I need to tell this funny story. My buddy Tom plays Battlefront with me, and the update came out, and a new character for Rey is Rey Skywalker, and she's got the yellow saber, and he has still not. He's a big Star Wars fan, has still not seen Rise of Skywalker, and so I was like, dude, I need to get you the Blu-ray. He's like, Mike, I'm pretty sure I already know what happens now. I'm like, dude, you have no idea. You have no idea. Yeah, it says Rey Skywalker. You don't know how they get to that point. So Tom, watch the damn movie. It's a different take on it, you know, but it is about, you know, embracing family, and that's what matters most, and it helps you overcome dark times. There's a huge message there. There's huge themes, and I love it. But it was just, what a lot of fun. This is a pleasant surprise. I'm so glad we're getting this stuff. But anything else from you guys? Any final thoughts on anything? We nailed it.
I think we nailed it.
We nailed it. Guys, I hope you enjoyed those conversations. I know I did. But, you know, I hope you're enjoying some of the comic discussion. I think we're seeing, you know, Vader's a much more complex character than people give him credit for. But I think we will have Holly read that second line, and Luke will finish it, and we'll do some Patreon exclusive stuff, because
Sounds fun.
It's an epic story. It's an epic story. But yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed this. We'll be back next week with some more discussion, hopefully. Hopefully some new content to chew on here soon. But Holly, any updates on book club? I feel like weekly I need to ask to make sure.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll post it.
Any tentative dates?
I'll post it when we're going to meet.
Okay. You heard it here, guys. She's going to post when we're going to meet and discuss. You keep calling it the Leia book.
I do, yeah.
And it throws me off.
And it's not the Leia book.
It's Bloodline.
It is about Leia.
It is about Leia. Yes, you are absolutely right.
It is a Leia book.
A Leia book, Bloodline. So we'll be talking about that, guys, here soon. So stay tuned for the book club. You know, get in that group. Get in wherever you can with Flying Casual. Join the fam.
Phrasing.
Yeah, boy. What a great way to round it out, right? With the beginning of the episode. Holy cow. Guys, sometimes you just got to work for the cream. That really was said on the podcast. I can't believe I said it. But, guys, I hope you enjoyed that discussion. Forgive the immature remarks, but we'll be back next week. And stay safe out there. Take care of each other. Keep flying casual. See ya.